Next time you need to get work done on your home, or your car, or your garden, make sure you choose a trader you can trust. And don't just choose any trader, choose a Which? Trusted trader. Our trading standards professionals only endorse traders who've passed our rigorous assessment that includes credit reports, customer satisfaction surveys, reference checks, and interviews. When we say a trader's good enough to display our Which? Trusted trader logo, you can trust us. But don't take our word for it. Search Which? Trusted Traders online to see our directory of around 4,000 traders. Every customer review you read there is verified genuine by our moderators, so you can choose with confidence. To find a local trader you can trust, search Which? Trusted Traders or go to which.co.uk/traders. That's which.co.uk/traders. Everybody needs a trader they can trust.
Hello and welcome to the Which Shorts podcast. I'm James Rowe. Each week on the podcast we delve inside one of the Which magazines, choose a piece that was written by one of our brilliant journalists and bring it to life, giving you loads of free, everyday advice. This week we're exploring why trading standards just is not fit for purpose. In the February edition of the Which magazine, our expert Ellie Simmons explained how a drop in staffing levels and funding is impacting consumers' pockets and their health. Here's Ellie's piece, adapted for the podcast, this week read by our presenter, Rob Lilly-Jones.
Trading Standards is responsible for everything from investigating rogue traders and national scams to checking the measure of beer in your pint glass. However, our research has revealed the service is largely unfit for purpose, with a postcode lottery when it comes to staffing levels and a concerning drop in funding from local councils. We found jaw-dropping differences on Trading Standards staffing levels depending on where you live. In Orkney, there are almost 5 Trading Standards staff covering the island, the equivalent of almost 21 staff per 100,000 people. But in Enfield, North London, there's just 1 full-time officer, plus a 1-day-a-week admin assistant and a 1-day-a-week contractor. That's just 0.43 staff per 100,000 people. Outside of staffing, funding is also a major issue. Trading Standards services are run by local authorities, and each authority has a legal duty of care to operate a Trading Standards service. But, unlike areas such as adult social care or children's services, the money for Trading Standards isn't protected. The Chartered Trading Standards Institute says spending on services has been cut by more than 50% over the past decade, and staffing levels have fallen by between 30 and 50% over that same period. About 2/3 of Trading Standards services that answered our question about allocating resources said that low staffing levels meant they couldn't investigate tip-offs, at least some of the time. They're also facing a constant battle in choosing where to focus resources, with some saying they're having to deprioritise certain areas of work. The most commonly deprioritised areas over the past 5 years were proactive surveillance, like routine inspections and test purchases, weights and measures work, and intellectual property issues. Some also said that they were no longer prioritising fake goods and scams. And these decisions have critical knock-on effects. Without checks on meat entering the food chain, we risk another horse meat scandal. And without controls on unsafe building materials, we risk another Grenfell Tower tragedy. In one example of Trading Standards apparently failing a consumer, Joanna told us about her nightmare experience with a dodgy roofer. In autumn 2023, she posted on a local Facebook group to get recommendations for someone to clean gutters and check her roof. She found a trader who agreed to initial work costing around £860. However, once it was done, he said the roof would only last 2 years and gave a quote to replace it, saying it would be cheaper as the scaffolding was in place. Joanna agreed, but told us it was the biggest mistake she ever made. The work took twice as long as estimated, and the roof leaked. The trader returned 4 times, creating more problems, cracking a window, damaging a windowsill by dropping a tile on it, and it turned out he didn't even have a permit for the scaffolding. Joanna contacted Citizens Advice, but after a generic reply, it didn't answer her emails or calls. She then contacted the Confederation of Roofing Contractors, which told her West Yorkshire Trading Standards were aware of the firm and had had 5 other complaints. She was told Trading Standards would contact her, but heard nothing. Since, she's had to hire another firm to sort the roof, and in total the saga has cost her more than £10,000. She doesn't know if the trader is still operating. It appears people from all industries are concerned about the funding and staffing levels too. Earlier this year, the Association of Convenience Stores called for extra resources for Trading Standards to deal with what it called the rising tide of illegal vapes and underage sales. Meanwhile, Save Face, which works with people who've suffered problems from unlicensed cosmetic procedures, has raised concerns about inconsistencies across Trading Standards teams, specifically in how proactively they police and enforce legislation banning cosmetic fillers and Botox for under 18s. It blamed budgetary and resource limitations. And the Food Standards Agency said the number of food standards allocated posts in England, Wales and Northern Ireland has fallen by 45.1% in the 10 years to 2022. It said that this risked compromising food standards in the future. So what needs to be done? Well, Which research shows consumers can no longer rely on the enforcement system to protect them. We believe Trading Standards services don't always have the resources or skills to deal effectively with the breadth of complex issues they're responsible for. We also believe that they lack effective strategic oversight because their work is determined and prioritised locally, despite much of it having national relevance. We're calling for the consumer enforcement system to be overhauled, with more scrutiny of its effectiveness, better intelligence sharing, and more oversight. In response, Valerie Simpson, chairperson of the Association of Chief Trading Standards Officers, said real investment is needed to support new apprentices into the profession. But she said they don't believe another review of consumer protection structures will address the issues. And Fiona Richardson, Chief Officer for Trading Standards Scotland, said the declining workforce, coupled with an increasing range of legislation to enforce, is creating serious issues for the service. She added that prioritisation and effective use of intelligence is required to ensure Trading Standards can continue to prevent and tackle consumer detriment.
This week, Rob Lilly-Jones was reading that piece originally written by Ellie Simmons and published in the February edition of The Which magazine. To read it in full, then be sure to become a Which member. There's a link in the show notes for you to join for 50% off the usual price, an offer that's exclusive to you, our podcast listeners. We'll be back again next week for another episode of Which Shorts, but don't forget that you can also listen to the Which Money podcast every week, where we give you a dose of personal finance news every Friday. Just search for Which Money wherever you're listening. Which Shorts was produced by me, James Rowe, produced and edited by John Weeks, while the exec producer was Samara McCarrath.
If you're enjoying this podcast from us here at Which, then why not become a Which member? Right now, we've got a special offer, especially for podcast listeners, meaning you can choose any of our 3 membership tiers for 50% off the usual price. Starting at just £39.50 for a full year, you can get Which magazine delivered direct to your door. For the same price, you could also choose a digital Which subscription, giving you access to all of our product reviews, the Which app, and the digital edition of Which magazine. What's more, you'll also be able to use the Ask Which service for personalised one-to-one buying advice. Or why not get a full access Which subscription for just £49.50 for a full year? Don't forget, that's 50% off the usual price. To join Which or to find out more, just head to which.co.uk/podcast offer. That's which.co.uk/podcast offer. Or click the link in the description for today's podcast for 50% off a Which annual subscription.